everyone, and welcome to a video all about digital planning. I started experimenting with Google Calendars as my primary planner in October of 2021. At the beginning, I was using both the Google Calendar and my paper planner, doubling up because I wasn't sure I could 100% trust my digital planning system. The first few months went pretty well though, so last year I decided to fully move my calendars to a digital system, and it has become second nature. I love my Google Calendar so much. Before I get into the screen share, I just wanted to mention that I take a very functional approach when I'm planning. I don't really do a whole lot of customizations. I just want to get it done, and as long as the system works, I don't care too much about what it looks like. So this video isn't really about aesthetics as much as it is about functionality and efficiency.
Here is a brand new Google Calendar that I'm going to work with. For the purposes of this video, I am starting from scratch, but as you'll see, I put in a bunch of recurrences to make year-over-year planning a breeze. So I'm never starting from a blank calendar anymore because I've got everything all set up to recur. But if you're starting from scratch, this is what you'll see when you open up your Google Calendar for the first time. This side here is a list of calendars that are automatically included. You'll see a calendar for my name, birthdays, reminders, and tasks. I personally don't like to have too many calendars enabled because I find I might forget to toggle them on or off. You're not seeing anything change because there are no entries in these, but if I toggle on and off the holidays in Canada, which is where I'm located, you'll see that toggling off makes them go away and toggling back on makes the calendar entries come back. So that's what would happen with these calendars as well. Because I like to keep things very simple, I basically just use this default calendar here. I use the default colors as well, but if you want to add a custom color, if you want like a more aesthetic palette, you can go ahead and add custom colors here. For my calendar, I like to have green basil as my default color. I really like the color green. I like the bright colors. I like knowing at a glance exactly what I'm looking at. And you'll see that the holidays is also green, but I actually do turn this off later, but I'll show you that after because I don't really care about all of these different dates. I basically just care about the big holidays, the statutory holidays, as well as occasions like Mother's Day, Father's Day. I will basically migrate over the holidays that I care about, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So the other thing that I do when I'm changing the default color is I also change the name of this calendar. I don't really care that it says my name. Instead, I'm just going to call this personal. I found that this birthdays calendar is included in some Google calendars as a default, but not others, and I'm not sure why that is. I would rename it, but it has this description in it that you can't change. I'm not going to use this, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. And then reminders and tasks are defaults that you can't change or delete, so I'm just going to uncheck those. I don't use these at all because I have another system that I use for my to-do lists, which I'm not going to get into in this video, but I can do a separate video on that down the road if anyone's interested. All right, so I've got my personal calendar, and I'm mainly going to be working off of this one, but what I'm doing is I'm replicating what I have exactly on my actual Google Calendar, the one that I use and the one that's already been set up. So I do have two other calendars that I toggle on and off. I'm going to show you how to create those. So if you go into this other calendars section and click the plus, create new calendar. I'm going to call this hubby, because this is hubby's work schedule. I don't really need a description because I know what it's for, and I'm just going to say create calendar. Hubby's calendar is now in this section here. Now I'm going to go ahead and change this color. I like to have this like birch color because it's in the background. It's like kind of grayed out. I don't really see it. The only reason I put in hubby's work schedule is because it varies so much. So sometimes he works morning, sometimes he works evening, sometimes he works weekends. We have a tiny condo, so it just works better if I book my meetings when he's at work. So that's the reason I have his calendar here, and I can turn it off if I don't want to see it, but usually I just have it toggled on. The other calendar I have that I'm not going to get into today, but I can show you what this is all about in a future video, is a products calendar. So this is where I track my beauty product usage now. And I like to use this really bright raspberry shade for it. So this is essentially my blank calendar setup. The next thing I want to show you before I move on to actually adding entries to my calendar is this up here, which is the time zone. I've only started playing around with time zones in Google Calendar, so I'm still very new at this. I do like to change the label on this though, because GMT -5 hours is kind of opaque to me, so I like to have something that's a little easier for me to remember. So I just hit the cogwheel, clicked settings, and here where it says Toronto time zone label, I like to put in the airport code. So for Toronto, it's YYZ. That's Pearson Airport. We have 2 airports now, but that's okay. I'm just going to use YYZ. I know what that is. Now, I am pretty particular about my calendar, and a Sunday start does not work for me. I like my calendars to start on a Monday so that my weekend is together. So my Saturday and Sunday are side by side. So I'm just going to update that real quick. I'm going to go into settings again, and then if I scroll down where it says start week on, I'm going to say Monday. Now you can see that Monday is the start of my week, and that feels a lot better to me for whatever reason. I'm going to toggle off the holidays before I get into things, but before I do that, I want to show you how I add holidays to my calendar really easily. So I'm going to scroll until I find a holiday that I want to add to my calendar. Okay, I'll add Groundhog Day. I'm going to click on this holiday. I'm going to click on the 3 dots, and I'm going to say copy to personal. I can leave all the settings as is, click save, and you'll see that this is doubled up now. And because the holidays in Canada are green, actually, maybe I'll change the color so you can see. I'll change it to tomato, and the entry that I duplicated to my personal calendar is green. So I'll just go through the calendar week by week and copy over all of the holidays that I care about. And once I'm done, I'll go back to today, and I will uncheck this calendar. I'm sure you've noticed that I like to work with my calendar on a weekly setup or a weekly view. You can also look at your calendar by the year, by month, and there's an option up here that's 4 days, which you can actually change, but I pretty much always do it by week. The way I like to start my calendar is I like to build in recurrences of the things that are important to me that are non-negotiable. For me, that is my daily walk, lunch, and dinner. If you're someone who is more driven by your work meetings and your work tasks, you may want to start with those. But for me, my daily walk, my lunch, and my dinner are really my anchor points throughout the day, and they happen every single day. On most days, I tend to start my daily walk at around 9 a.m., but of course this can change depending on what I have on the go. So I'm just going to put in the recurrence on the Monday so you can see it fill out for the entire week. But you can start the recurrence wherever you want on whatever day you want. So I'm just going to go to the more options section so we can see everything a little bit more clearly. I'm going to put in what this is, my daily walk. I budget an hour and a half for my daily walk. And I'm going to set up the recurrence to be daily. I don't like to turn my notifications on, so I'm just going to remove that. And then I'm going to click save. So now you can see that my daily walk has been scheduled indefinitely. This goes on forever. And that is perfectly fine with me. I also have a writing session I like to attend. There's one at 8 a.m. and one at 11 a.m. So I do like to put one of these in, and usually the 11 a.m. one works a little bit better for me. So I'm going to add that as well. Now, one thing I want to mention is I don't actually like to have my calendar completely filled out with time blocking for the entire day. That really stresses me out. So I like to have a lot of white space in my calendar. I am constantly deleting things, shifting things around, and making sure I have enough white space. So that's why having a half-hour gap here, having a big gap in the morning from when I wake up, which is at around 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., having this huge gap of time is fine for me. This is when I do my morning routine, but I don't need to put into my calendar morning routine. That just, again, it stresses me out. I know this is a block of empty time where I can do basically whatever I want. I can look at my to-do list and get things done, but I don't want to schedule it in. I don't want to time block all of the hours in my day. So lunch is now a non-negotiable half hour. I used to set this at 1 hour, but I found it was like messing with my systems a little bit. And again, I like to see the white space. I know some people love notifications, but if you're like me and you don't want notifications for anything, this is how you can turn it off so that when you're adding entries, you don't have to remove it for every single one. So if you go to your calendar and click on the 3 dots, settings and sharing, scroll down until you see the notification. So this is the default notification that's happening for every single calendar entry. I'm just going to X that out and it automatically saves so I can go back now. And when I add my dinner entry, which I'm about to do, you'll see that the notification is gone. Now for my dinner, I typically hold 4 to 6 p.m. for this. And I'm definitely making up time for a shorter lunch here because I have a really long, leisurely dinner. So that is basically it in terms of my non-negotiables, what I like to put into my calendar. Of course, I do have my work commitments. I don't actually have any additional meetings this week that I need to log, but I will log my commitments for next week. So typically I have a Monday morning meeting at 10 o'clock for one of my paid jobs. This is my project management job, so I'll just call it PM job. And this is a weekly check-in. It doesn't usually last the whole hour, but I hold the entire hour for this call. And this repeats weekly on Monday. And as you can see, it is in my calendar now, overlapping with my daily walk. So I'll show you how I fix that in a second. But for this entry, because it is my project management job, I actually assign it a different color. Now you can do another calendar for your work tasks. I have 2 part-time jobs and I don't want to have too many calendars, as I mentioned, in case I forget to toggle one on. It gets a bit messy for me. So I like to have everything on my personal calendar, but I'll just give it another color. Another commitment that I have is on Wednesday afternoons. This lasts 2 hours and it's weekly on Wednesday. I'll assign the color here. I'll stop there, even though I do have a few other things, but you get the idea in terms of this project management job and what that looks like. Now, this is going to be a busy week for my job at the writing studio as well. I'm going to have a meeting with the writing studio on Tuesday at 10:30. And for the writing studio, I use the lavender color. So that is what my week looks like in terms of paid jobs. And again, I could have made this into its own calendar, called it the writing studio calendar, and called my project management job my project management calendar, but it's too much for me. I'd rather just have everything on my personal calendar so I'm not forgetting anything. When I'm looking at this calendar, I know I'm seeing everything that I have. Now I have some personal things too that I want to do next week. And I use a different color for those as well. Even though these are personal things, these are kind of like regular personal things. If I have workshops I want to attend, or if I have appointments or calls with friends, I give that its own color as well. So on Tuesday afternoon, I have a calligraphy workshop I want to attend. So I will just add that in. It's a 1-hour workshop. It doesn't repeat. And for this, I like to use this flamingo color. So that is my signal that this is a personal thing, a fun thing that I want to be doing, and it's like a set time. So I can't move this around, because if I move this to 3 o'clock, I will miss the workshop. Whereas these other things I can move around or delete, the ones in green. Now there's a talk that I might want to go to. I might actually just watch it online though, and that is on Wednesday at 6:30. Because I'm not sure if I'm actually going to go to this, I'm going to put this in this like beautiful yellow color. So this to me signifies that there's something pending about this item. I still have to decide, or maybe I still have to make a reservation. Maybe I still have to buy a ticket. So this is how I use the calendar in terms of color coding. And when I show you my actual calendar, you'll see a lot of examples of this. And when it comes time for me to plan the upcoming week, I will just move these items around. So I'll move my walk to 8 o'clock. So I can make it back in time for my weekly check-in. Everything else is fine. It's not overlapping, so I can leave it as is. This daily walk, I'd probably move up just a little bit so I'm back in plenty of time for the meeting. And then I would delete the writing session for this day. So that day is looking fine now. Same with this day. Shift my daily walk up. Delete my writing session. And I still will have lunch. In this time slot, I would just grab a snack during our break and have it in front of the computer. So this overlap is fine. In the background, I would also have hubby's work schedule as well. So that's something that I haven't shown yet, but if I were to add hubby's schedule for this upcoming week, he's working 7 to 3 that day. So I'm just going to click on more so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put it in hubby's calendar. So I'm not just changing the color here. I'm actually changing the calendar itself. So this is going to go in hubby's calendar. This is going to repeat daily, but it's going to be every day for 5 days because that's his schedule for this week. As I mentioned before, his schedule changes all the time. So this is his schedule, and as you can see, all of my meetings are when he's working, so that's great. The only one where he might come home in the middle of is this commitment here, but this actually isn't a meeting. This is just some work that I need to do in this part of the day. So that is essentially how I plan my week. Every single week on Friday, I do this. I look to the week ahead, and I make sure that I don't have anything overlapping. The other thing I like to track is my period. So I am actually on my period right now, and the way I track that is I just put a dot, period. This cycle is from the 1st to the 7th. Because I'm on birth control right now, my period is very regular and it repeats every 4 weeks. So I'll just go ahead and add this recurrence. I just leave the color unchanged. And when I click save, you'll see that there's a bar across the top. The last thing I want to show you before I flip to my actual working calendar is this section here, which is quite a fun section. So if you click on that plus sign in other calendars, and if you go to calendars of interest, this is a lot of fun. Okay, so I haven't put in any birthdays yet, but I actually do add in birthdays, and I basically just add them to my personal calendar. Everything is in my personal calendar. Okay, so scrolling down, I actually do like to tick off the US holidays as well. And as well, I like to click the China holidays because the Lunar New Year is really important to me, and also the Mid-Autumn Festival, that sort of thing. National Hockey League calendar, specifically, of course, for the Maple Leafs. So I'm going to check that off. And phases of the moon. Okay, let's go back. Our calendar is going to be quite busy now. Now, phases of the moon, I copy over the full moons and the new moons. So I'm going to copy that to personal. The reason I don't keep this toggled on is because I don't need to know the other things. It's really just the full moon and new moon. So once I've copied over everything there, I will toggle that off as well. And then finally, the Maple Leafs calendar, I just leave on all the time. And that is because if I have a choice about when to plan something, I usually don't plan a dinner, say, on a night of a hockey game because I'd rather be home watching the game. So that's why I have this here just as FYI. And I don't copy these over to my personal calendar until the game has passed because I want to know the score. So once the game has passed, I will actually copy this over. And this is a really strange quirk for me. I did consider not doing this anymore, but it started bothering me. So I went ahead and I copied over all the ones that I skipped. That is basically how I set up my calendar. I didn't do all of the things because that would just be way too much, but let me now toggle over and show you my actual calendar that is in use. Here is what my actual working calendar looks like. So as you can see, I do have the function enabled where previous entries are grayed out, and I didn't explain that yet, so I think that would be in settings. In view options here, I just checked off reduce the brightness of past events. The red line does show us where we are in the week. So as you can see on the sample calendar that I put together and on my calendar, but it's a lot easier to know exactly where I am if my previous entries are grayed out. There are a few things here that you'll notice that weren't on this calendar because this calendar is like very bare bones. What I do with my daily walk after I've gone on my daily walk is I actually fill in where I went. So today I went to Farm Boy to pick up some groceries, so I went ahead and put that in there because I do like to use this to document my life as well as plan my life. The other thing I like to fill out after the fact is my lunch. So as you can see, I've filled out what I had for lunch on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I haven't done today yet, but I did take my non-negotiable half hour. Hide hubby's schedule, so everything is a little bit cleaner. So you can see that this white space is a swath of free time that I can use to do whatever I want. And I've decided to use this time to record this video. I also did a bit of recording up here when I got home from my walk. Everything else is pretty much as you saw it. I've already planned out this week, so I moved my walks a little later on the weekends. I like to go for my walks right before lunch. I have a call with one of my friends tomorrow. I've got moon planning in the evening. There's a Pokemon Go community day on Saturday, which I plan to play. And the only other thing is this wash hair recurrence that I have. So I wash my hair every 3 days, as you can see, but I often forget. So I'm like, did I wash my hair yesterday? Did I wash it 2 days ago? I can't remember. So I've put it in my calendar now. And this is basically a recurrence that happens every 3 days. I have it for 8 a.m. to 8:30. But as you can see, I move it around depending on when I actually do the task. But just having this hold here makes all the difference because then I don't have to think about it. Anything to release mental clutter is ideal for me.
That is going to be it for my digital planning video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do digital planning, I would love to hear a little bit about your process, or if you have any tips and tricks to share, as those are always very interesting to me. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Until then, please take care and bye for now.